us, and we'll open the meeting with prayer, and then if you will, remain standing, and we'll join in the pledge to the flag. I'm going to call on our Assistant EMA Director, Frank Schaefer, to lead us in prayer.
Let's pray. Father God, thank you so very much for this time you've given us to come together as family and friends, Lord God. I ask that you would be with our commissioners, Father God, administrators, Lord God, as they conduct the business of the county, Lord God, and help us to maintain honor and integrity as we do so, Lord God. I ask you to help us to remember our troops both abroad and here, Lord God, as they serve each and every day to protect us and keep us free, Lord God. In your holy, precious name we pray.
Amen. Amen. Join us in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Certainly want to welcome you here today. I appreciate your attendance and your interest in the business of the commission. We are especially pleased to have Judge Lake Short with us, and Judge Ben Bowden, and Judge Stacy Brooks, and Sheriff Terman. Thank you all for attending today. First on the agenda is public comment, and we have nothing scheduled, so we will move on to consent agenda. Well, let me go back. Take public comment from those elected officials that I mentioned. Any of y'all have anything you want to bring to the commission or make comment about at this time, you're welcome to. Or we can come back to you later in the meeting if you decide you want to respond to something later. All right. Consent agenda, the minutes from the February 12th, 2018 meeting were made available to each of the commissioners. I'll ask if you had any changes or corrections, or if there are none, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right. Second. Motion and second to approve those. No one else had corrections to note. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, those are approved. Under old business, we were having conversation in our last meeting about a communications agreement or contract that was in place, and Ms. Lawson has provided us with response that she had received when she asked the question of the Association of County Commissions about extending the contract. Do you want to elaborate on that some?
Basically, the bid law that was used to send out the telephone inmate phone quote to start with specified that the 3-year term, and the law states that you absolutely must not extend the contract past 3 years for competitively bid contractual services.
Okay.
So
which is what we thought at the last meeting.
That's right. Well, I will acknowledge that I thought that there was an allowance for extending it, renewing, approving an extension for an additional 3 years, and that's probably under old law or an old AG opinion or something. So we, unless somebody opposes, we're going to assume that this is correct until we're shown different, and so there's no action to take on this at this time unless one of you guys want to do something different. Okay, appreciate you checking on that and appreciate the direction on that. Okay. Another item is for board appointments, and I think we acknowledged at the last meeting that these there were several appointments up. Page 3 of your packet has the open or the vacancies listed. There are 3 vacancies on the rec board, and there is 1 vacancy on the Covington County Water Authority. Karen has given us information here. One of the currently serving board members is Wayne Bush, and Wayne's term expired March 10th. He had continued on 2020, okay, so it's not expired yet, but he has asked that we find somebody to replace him. He would like to resign from the board. And I see 2 names listed here that have been submitted for consideration. Clint Veazey for one of the 3 vacancies, and Jed Blackwell for a second of the 3 vacancies on the Recreation Board. Somebody want to make a motion that we appoint these 2, or you want to nominate somebody else for consideration? What are the wishes of the commission?
I'll make a motion to put these 2 on. Do we have any other?
I don't know of any others right Yeah, somebody else have, I know you've all had opportunity to
They'll
talk
still
about this.
leave one remaining on that one.
I'd leave one open.
Okay, so there's a motion to appoint the two names that were submitted here, Clint Veazey and Jed Blackwell. These are two-year terms. Clint Veazey, it's been proposed that Clint Veazey fill Wayne Bush's unexpired term, so his appointment would go through March 10th of 2020. And Jed's would be a new appointment, a new position, and it would be a two-year term from the date of appointment, so.
6-year term.
It's-
2-year
It
term?
says two-year terms on those, yeah, is that correct? Karen, do you know?
I would have to look back, I believe
Well,
I think
So
so.
Yeah.
two-year term,
it rotated, I know that there were different, they were staggered, I believe, on this one.
okay, we'll confirm that. So we'll at least get them for 2 years, maybe longer if the bylaws allow that. So,
I second.
okay, there's a motion and a second on these appointments. Anybody else have any comment or questions on this? Again, this will still leave one open board slot, and we will maybe be able to fill that by the next meeting. All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor of these two appointments, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, those two, Clint Veazey and Jed Blackwell, are considered appointed, and that will remove Wayne Bush of his responsibilities on the board effective today. The other position that is open is on the Water Authority. Dr. Richard Merrill has served in that position. It's a 6-year term. He's at the end of his current 6-year term. Actually, it expires in the month of March. And he's willing to be reappointed. What are your wishes on that, commissioners?
I suggest we reappoint him if he's willing to serve. I'll second.
All right. So, motion and second to reappoint Richard Merrill. Anybody else have anything to bring on that or any thoughts? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, Dr. Merrill is reappointed for 6 additional years. Thank you. Page 4, we have information on bid awards, and this is related to the EMA office, and you want to address that, or you want Susan to
Susan
address
would
it?
probably
Susan, if
best.
you would, come on and give us some background on this. I know we had invitations to bid out, and it looks like we had one bidder respond,
Right,
although we did have several that either pulled paperwork or expressed an interest and were aware, so.
yes. This is the hazard mitigation grant that I've had for several years now. And we're at a time frame where we got to use the grant or turn the funds back in, and we sent out the bids. We did receive the one from Modular Connections. If you remember, I don't know, on this page where you have the different modules that are divided out, Module A and B is the shelter portion of the grant, and that's the funds that FEMA money can be spent on. So the $166,405, I think it is, and 78 cents. That all that money goes onto the shelter portion, that A and B. And remember, it's a 75-25 match. So the other funds that have to come from the county, we can use the in-kind services. And Kevin probably don't think it's kind, because bless his heart, he'll have to handle most of that, but he will be able to give us enough of the clearing the area and getting it prepared and all that, that we can use that as in-kind services on that module A and B.
I think we're gonna put a foundation.
Yes, and the foundation too. But module C is the EOC portion that we added on, and that is the portion that will have to be funded through actual money on that part. We can't do the in-kind services on that part. If we use the crane, we would be able to subtract approximately $15,000 from both projects. So if you're looking at just how much money needs to be prepared to spend on this project, it's the $101,387 or if we get to use the crane, it's the $97,637. And we're hoping we can, and everything looks like we can use the crane, but I don't have that in stone yet. So that's why I wanna make sure we're clear on that part.
So you went from 101,387 to what number?
$97,637, because that's just the portion on that module. We'll have to take
The
it
other
off.
part's part of the in-kind.
Right.
Were these the numbers that we had originally been looking at as far as the
Yes, sir.
county match?
Yes, sir.
Relatively close. Is the use of the crane, will that require an amendment to the contract, or is that just built into the pricing?
It's,
in
the
the
slab is
original.
not in this pricing, but the crane is, so that if we do use our crane, they will take that pricing out.
Okay, and that's that was already spelled out in the original
Yes.
proposal. So we don't have to go back and amend the contract, we just adjust the contract.
Yes,
Because we're bound by 10% or some restriction on the amendment, so. If, you follow what I'm saying, if we,
I think I do.
if the contract is 200,000, then we're limited to how much we can amend under that original bid by, it's 10%, I think,
yeah.
of the original contract. So I wanna make sure that that 15,000 we're looking at
Two.
reducing it by is either covered in the way we bid it, or that it's within the 10%.
It is not stated in the bill that we can allow to take it in and out, but the total total bid is the 318.
Okay, so we're
So
within-
we're under that
okay,
10%.
good. All right.
What kind of time frame are we talking about on being able to make a decision on this? How much, I know you said it's drawing to the end, but how close are we to the end?
I didn't bring the entire
I mean,
grant
just
of
a
when it's,
guesstimate.
a year. I can give y'all the specific date of when the grant's over, but it is approximately.
Do you have a deadline for construction? Was there a deadline given for?
When that grant ends, I have to have the construction done and inspection and all the monies and records sent to them to get
But have we
refunded.
identified a deadline to the contract?
Oh, no.
Okay, and they can deliver it within 12 months?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I asked them that. They said it'd be a couple of months before because they've got several projects going that they can actually start, but they will have it completed by the
By
end of the
necessary
year.
time?
Mhm.
Okay.
And that time now is roughly a year?
I'll give you a date, of the grant,
All right.
the grant ending date. I'll have to get that to you. I didn't bring that in.
Any other questions?
No.
Yeah,
I think it's something we need and something we've been looking at that would really be beneficial for our emergency system, you know.
And we see several needs that we could use, like even our safety classes that we have there, and engineer's office training and stuff. We can use that area for many things in there.
all of EMA will move over to this building?
All but the offices, the EOC will be moved over.
Not the offices? Okay. During an event, I know the staff would move over, and that's not the offices, that's just part of the EOC operation. They
Right.
move over
But
to-
that would
to
open
the
up some,
desk.
that would open up some additional space in this building that
Yeah.
we would probably be able to utilize.
Yeah.
Is there a reason, is it because the grant doesn't allow that? Is that the reason that it wasn't incorporated into the construction? I didn't
'Cause
remember
this-
the conversation.
Because we'd had to add another module and
Just additional cost.
additional
Okay.
cost.
And this is, the bid is within our original estimates of
Yes.
cost, so we're okay, okay. Any other questions, comments? Is there a motion to award this bid to Modular Connections LLC for $318,616?
I would love to hear a little more from Susan about it when she gets this
Thinking,
contract dates and that kind of thing.
thinking
I think
table
we've
to
all
the next,
talked about this, and I think it's a good move on our part to do this. But I want us also to be at a point where I know we can complete this and have it done when this grant is finished.
you thinking
By the
next meet,
meeting even, you know,
you saying maybe table to the next meeting and give us some time?
that's what I'd love to do, yeah.
you wanna do that, or do you want to, grant the authority to Karen and Susan to enter the contract, notify the successful bidder, subject to, verifying the completion date that they can meet? It needs to be in the contract what the delivery date is, correct? The construction contract. You have a limited time, so you have to give them a limited time to deliver.
Right.
And I'm sure that was identified in the proposal.
Yes, they worked with many, hazard mitigation grants before, and they told me that they can start in the next couple of months if I can get it
But how
approved,
soon
so.
can they deliver? I guess that's the question.
Oh,
How can they
they're
complete?
pre-fab, but I mean, it's not gonna take long to, it depends on Kevin getting the slab ready and all that. That's why the,
18 months?
the more that we wait, the longer it's
I
just closer
understand,
to
that's
I'm
fine.
getting to the time of when it ends.
Did you repeat the contract, the proposal? You don't remember the dates? Okay. I'll tell you what if we recess in a few minutes and let's look at that and make sure that,
Yeah,
and then if we have to come back and postpone it 2 weeks, we can do that. But let's see if we can reach a decision on this today, if we can
Of
answer
the
the
date
questions.
that the,
The completion date.
Of
We
the
don't care
grant.
when they start so much as the completion of the construction, because it's gotta be done before your grant deadline.
right,
We gotta know they can deliver it in plenty of time for us to complete the grant
He-
process.
I mean, I don't have anything
I
in
know they're
writing,
telling
he
you-
told me that he can do that.
They're telling you it needs to be in writing, so we'll
Okay.
we'll
Well-
ask Stephanie to review that with you and make sure we're covered. I think that's the concern.
it is
That's
a
what I'm
concern,
hearing.
yeah.
So we'll look at that. We'll just take a recess in a few minutes and
What do
see
you
if we can
think?
satisfy that.
We probably won't still have that information until
No, I
we do
mean-
it, so,
Okay.
why don't we
That's fine.
go
We'll
ahead
just postpone it, or
and
what?
do the table, and that'll give everybody ample time to do it
Weeks.
and give more time to think on it. If
That's
that's
fine.
your motion.
I would, and look, it's not that I'm not behind this, cause I
Huh?
think we all are. But I think we need to know for a fact, we don't wanna lose this grant because we're 2 weeks late completing this thing. And, if we can find out definitely that this can happen within that, then I think that everybody's behind it.
Okay.
So anybody else, if nobody else objects, we will postpone a decision on this until the next meeting. It'll be on the agenda. Let's review the deadline, the delivery date that they can commit to, and we'll make sure. Otherwise, any other questions for Susan relative to this agreement or this contract?
Is there any way that, just say there was construction issues, like weather, that we could ask for extensions?
Mhm.
Are there ways we can do that?
Yes,
Well, I don't see where we wouldn't have, but, it's fine with me to wait, whatever.
All right. Anything else you want to share with us on it?
no, sir.
All right. All right. Thank you, ma'am. Next item, though, you may want to hang
That's
for,
what
and
I'm
that's what I thought. Those requests to consider approval of out-of-state travel for EMA. You want to share with us what you have
Yes,
there?
this is for Frank to go to the National Safety Council Southern Conference and Expo. It's on the safety side of what we have. For the last 3 years, we've used a lot of our resources and training, and we're getting to the point where we need to expand on what we're bringing into the county employees and different vendors that we can pull on. We have one, and their information is quite expensive, and I feel like if we could get some more education and more vendors, we could spread our money out a little better. So, we're just trying to make more contacts, and this is the closest one that we could find
Where is this one located?
in New Orleans,
New Orleans.
and it's in my budget.
Okay, so it's a budgeted item. We just need to give approval for out-of-state travel. And I appreciate the job that y'all are doing on the safety issue. That's, there's a lot of work involved in that, and your department has stayed busy with that in addition to the EMA, so thank y'all. Is there a motion to approve this travel?
So moved.
Motion, second?
Second.
There is a second. Questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved unanimously. All right. Next on the agenda was discussion of GPS systems for the sheriff's department. Sheriff, that may be a place you want to come up, if you don't mind. I don't know how much discussion we'll have on that. It was just a question that had been raised earlier, and you may have something you want to address on that, or you may want to answer questions that were pertinent to that issue.
Sure, I'll give you my
Okay.
bid on it.
All right.
Currently have a system in the car called it's our move system. And there's a MapQuest system that goes with that. With that MapQuest system, there's an antenna. And I think we may have some antennas that may work. They're gonna be at the shop. This ties into what they call AVL, which is a automatic vehicle locator. And with this system, you're able to look and see where all the county cars are at one time. It also plots where we have our enforcement actions and crashes and puts it on the map. So if you, let's just say someone gets out and writes a warning ticket just south of town, a little red dot will be there. If somebody gets out and writes a speeding ticket, there'll be a green dot there. And if there's a crash, there'll be a blue dot. So the trick is if you have a lot of areas where you have trouble, such as crashes, you send your officers out there to work that area, and you can actually get some feedback on. It helps keep statistics. In this day and time, we're always going to be shorthanded. But if we have statistics to work with, we can be a better manager of the officers that we have. And also, the most important thing is about officer safety and response time. There's been too many incidents in the past years where officers have been hurt, or they get excited, they go out on a call, and we don't know where they are. And I don't look at it like the officers get so excited they can't do their job. But in the rush of the moment and everything, you're lucky to turn the siren off on your car. And with this AVL, we'll be able to actually locate our guys a whole lot quicker. And on response times, as a supervisor, you can have your AVL pulled up in your patrol car on your computer. And let's say somebody gets a call to a wreck, and you got a deputy 5 miles and you got a deputy 10 miles from the wreck. The supervisor can adjust and send which deputy he needs to. So it's really a great idea. It's minimal cost. It's something that we really need this to push forward as a department.
I think we've already approved that at earlier date on putting GPS on, and I think we have some additional units still available.
And I tell you, it would be great to have. I really want them on all my marked cars and my unmarked cars, because you can't ever tell. You might have an investigator that's close by to a call, and he doesn't know what's going on. So
We approved this for all vehicles, all county vehicles, but I know there's a need in your department for some exclusions, and I don't know that we've left the flexibility in the policy where we established that they be on all the vehicles. So I think maybe that ought to be part of our conversation. Do we want to give authority for exclusion from certain vehicles to the sheriff within his department? I think we should. I think another question is on the administration of the system. Now, the engineering department administers all of those vehicles and all the GPS units. And it makes sense that the sheriff have responsibility and access only to his. We can provide technical support, but he needs to control that administration out of his office. So I think that that's gonna be an issue that we
And I don't have I
consider.
don't really have an issue with anybody knowing where my vehicles are. I just, I need to know
You
where
need
they
to know.
are so I can
Well, that needs to be
manage it
managed in
better.
your department. So I think that we could address those things right now, and then these other things that you're saying are available.
And there's some vehicles that I probably wouldn't wanna put one on,
I
you
think
know,
that exclusion needs
Yeah.
to be up to you.
but, for
So is there, anybody have thoughts on that? Do you want to consider a motion to give him the authority to exclude vehicles as he seems?
I'll
Is
make
it-
that motion.
All right, that you deem
No.
appropriate, and also that you have the authority to administer the system.
Right.
Now, you're asking for the antennas for the current system that you have. He's not asking for the
Right.
GPS that
Solar
we
track.
already approved, solar
Right.
track.
It's
He's
two
wanting
different programs.
to make
It's
sure
two
that he has.
I want the system that we have in
Yeah.
place on our Move desktop, because it also ties in with the enforcement actions that we make, and I need that data to be able to
Right.
be more effective.
So if
But
y'all
our-
allowing him to exclude Solar Track, then he can add.
Then
He
do
can
what he
add the
wants to,
ones that
that's
he
right.
wants to.
We
that's
just wanna have
compatible
his
with
hands
his-
tied right now.
Yes.
It's
And this
policy.
this will have the capability of tying in with our 911 center.
Sure will.
So-
They-
so
they-
that
they'll
they
have
can
these
help-
capabilities as well.
Help with that in the situation.
That's right.
I would, go ahead.
So we had a
I'll make a
motion
motion.
on that. You have a second?
I'll
Joe,
second.
you second that? Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? Is that gonna give you
Uh,
what you
now-
need?
We was talking about he had, what, 8 or 9 other ones. I think in our contract, we could keep the same price for more, or do we have to get a certain number more?
Not, I think with our, as a county as a whole, I think it falls under the umbrella, so I think it'll be the same pricing.
In other words, you needed more, I think it wouldn't be an additional amounts for extra.
Not an
It'll be,
additional cost.
it's just
It would
so
still be
much
the
per
same.
month, it's just so
Yeah.
much per month for adding additional.
So we have a motion and a second. This gives him the authority to grant exclusions and administer. And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Thank you, Sheriff. Next on the agenda is reports from staff. Anybody have a report to bring at this time?
Just our County Road 107 project, I talked with our company rep, and they're making a proposal next week to the board for consensus, and we should be, hopefully have something in the next 2 weeks
Okay.
to soundly start moving forward permanently with this project, so.
Okay. All right. Last item on the agenda is discussion items by commissioners. Kyle, I think you had something you wanted to bring.
Yes, we wanted to add the Point A agreement to the agenda.
Okay.
Do we need to
Anybody
vote on that?
opposed, object to that? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we end the agreement with Point A, and we've discussed renegotiating that contract.
So the motion is that we send notice.
Send
That we
notice.
will not renew the current contract, but that we will entertain negotiation or conversation for a new contract. There's some concerns and issues. The county has too much exposure for cost and stuff under the old longstanding contract. So by sending notice now, we can go ahead and get the conversation started and get things in place, hopefully before the end of this contract period.
Yes.
So, and I know you said you had conversation with the current manager, and so he should be aware of that. There's a motion to do that. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Anybody have questions or comments, concerns? All right, with a favorable vote, we'll ask Stephanie to prepare, and we'll send notice to that effect. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Anything else, commissioners?
No.
I want to remind you that this afternoon at 2 o'clock, we'll have an economic development announcement, a joint announcement between South Central Alabama Mental Health, Alabama Department of Mental Health, and County Commission. It'll be here on these grounds, adjacent to the jail. Invite all of you to come and join us. There'll be a small reception following that 2 o'clock announcement. Earlier, word was out that the governor was gonna be joining us, and she had committed and was making plans. Her advance man was here Thursday and getting ready. And then late Thursday, she notified us through her office that she was gonna have to cancel because of some conflicts in her schedule that had arisen. And we regret that, but the show will go on, so we'll have the announcement. The commissioner of the Alabama Department of Mental Health will be here, Lynn Bashir, so she'll be standing in for the governor as a member of her cabinet. So we look forward to having her and others here to join us at 2 o'clock. Questions, comments beyond that?
I did want to give you an update. My daughter, everything went well.
Good.
And they said no more radiation, no more chemos. Everything looks good.
Very good.
She'll go back tomorrow for another visit, but really appreciate the
Thank-
prayers and thoughts of
Yeah,
everybody.
thankful for the good report, Ken.
Good
Thank-
deal.
Appreciate you sharing that with us. Anything else? A motion to adjourn would be in order. You want to speak? Okay, I'm sorry, Judge. I forgot to come back to the other electeds.
Listen, I'm here today because I understand, I think I know what's gonna be built out here. And I've talked to a couple of you individually, and I have some real concerns about it. I'm afraid, that we're not really sure what's coming out there. When I say we, I'm talking about you gentlemen. I don't mean to talk down in any respect at all, but this is a business that I know about. I don't know about any of your businesses or anything about it, and I want to make sure that y'all know that you need to ask some questions about the security of this facility and who's gonna be there. I've prepared each one of you, hopefully. I know I've already given a couple of guys a copy of this, there's one for you. This is the Alabama Security Medical Facility, you've got yours.
Yeah.
I've given you one.
We got-
You have.
I got one. Yes, sir.
All right, this is the Alabama Secure Medical Facility Act, and also a copy of the Alabama Rules of Criminal Procedure, Rule 11, that deals with how you deal with mentally incompetent people who have been charged with a crime. I want y'all to want to understand how this procedure works, so you'll know what's fixing to happen out here. I have not seen any proposed contract, I haven't read any policy manual or procedures that mental health goes by when they're determining where to place people and what kind of people to place where. So I'm in the dark about that. I know this is the law, and any policies or procedures that mental health has, that's their rules, that's not the law. Maybe it becomes the law because they adopt it as their policies and procedures. But I'm very concerned on a couple of aspects. The way this procedure works is somewhere, not just here. First of all, let me say this. I do all the criminal work, Judge Biden and I, every criminal case that's made, felony and criminal case here in Covington County, we deal with it. We know who's getting locked up, why they're getting locked up. That's part of what we've been elected to do, is to make sure people that we feel like, in our opinion, aren't safe to be on the streets get locked up, or either be locked up for punishment of a crime. This law, this new facility, which is what it is a place to administer care to individuals who have been charged with a crime, but who have been found to be incompetent to stand trial, to try to render them competent enough either to enter a guilty plea knowingly or to go and assist their attorney in a trial. So the people who have mental problems, it's the criminally insane is another term for it. I know we're calling it a forensic medical facility, but that's what it is. It's somebody who some judge somewhere has said this person is mentally incompetent. He's charged with a crime, so we've got to do something with him. And some doctor has said, look, if he gets the right kind of treatment, he can probably be made competent enough to stand trial. Well, that's the kind of person that gets sent to these facilities. Heretofore, they all went to Taylor Hardin. You probably all heard of Taylor Hardin. It's a secure medical facility.
Where's Taylor Hardin located, Judge?
It's in Tuscaloosa.
Okay.
Where most of those kind of places have been, around a college, a lot of medical facilities, a lot of activities and things like that. But the idea, and if you read particularly, and I've highlighted some of these documents I've given you, I know we're talking about a short-term facility, but if you read the words in these documents I've given you, and which is the law, it says it can be in one of these facilities for up to 6 months. Then the judge that sent him there, not me or Judge Bowden, but some judge from Jefferson County or somewhere else, has to have a hearing to determine whether or not he's now competent to stand trial. Well, that's not the end of it, because it says he can issue a renewing order of up to a year, and it doesn't limit how many renewing orders he can issue. So while it's probably designed and will be a short-term facility, that's not written in concrete. I have a lot of concerns about the people getting let out. A person is locked into one of these facilities because of two things. He's been charged with a crime, and a judge, on recommendation usually from a doctor, has determined that he's not safe to be out in the public, so he has to be put in one of these facilities. Well, a judge can also decide at that next hearing, well, he's still incompetent, but I don't think he's a danger anymore, so he can be let out. Now, how does that affect us? You would think naturally he's fixing to go back to Jefferson County. Well, is he? Nothing in here says he has to do that. As a matter of fact, on the second page of the Alabama Secure Medical Facility, let's see, 2254-4C says, patients without legal encumbrances may be discharged directly from the facility upon concurrence of the superintendent, all that kind of stuff. My point is, may means it can happen right here. So how would that actually play out? Judge Bowden and I discussed some possible scenarios. Let's say somebody gets charged with a crime in just Jefferson County. I know there's another facility up there, but the way things work with the state, if that one's full, they're gonna send him down here if we've got a bed. And let's say the judge in that case, a person gets locked up, and then it's some time before his lawyer files a petition to have a mental evaluation. He comes to the judge and files a motion, and the judge says, okay, I'm gonna order it. And I sign those orders all the time, and we send them up to Taylor Hardin, and they send us back a report. And that report will advise the judge what to do. And so he would issue an order saying he needs to go be put inpatient and get this care and treatment to try to be brought up to where he can be tried. Well, let's say he's down here in this facility and he's been here 6 months. The judge in Jefferson County sets that hearing for him to be brought back up there. And after he has the hearing, he's not going to decide right then normally. Judges say, I'm going to take it under advisement and get out an order, take him back. So he's going to be brought back down here. And then a few days later, when he gets around to it, the judge says, you know, I think he's still incompetent, but based on what that psychiatrist told me, he must not be a danger anymore, so I'm going to let him get out, let him be out on his bond. Well, let's think what had happened while he was first in jail. His grandmother went down there and posted his bond, so his bond's been made, but they wouldn't let him out because they had to send him for this testing. When that order comes out that says he can be released, and these people call Jefferson County and say, well, his grandma's already made his bond, so you can let him out. Are they gonna come get him? I don't know if they are or not. The rules talk about the sheriff of the county he's from having to come and get him back and forth for hearings. Doesn't say anything about when he's released. So I just wanna make sure y'all are concerned because I'm concerned. You really have no reason, you don't have any reason to know all this. I don't know any of your businesses, but I know this business, I know how it works. And I've got some real concerns about it. And I want to make sure y'all know the questions that I asked. And I'll be glad to meet with any of you, talk to any of you, look at any paperwork you got. I'm not your lawyer, Stephanie is. But I deal with this and have for 18 years on the bench and 10 years as a prosecutor. So,
Judge, you raised some valid concerns, and you, as you said, we've had conversations earlier about these. I've had some recent conversation with the Assistant Commissioner of Mental Health, dealing, at least communicating some of the concerns that you've raised earlier. And she, in turn, went to their legal department to have conversation. So I feel like that we can address these, and I feel like to the satisfaction of the commission, but we will find out. The commissioner, the assistant commissioner will be here today, and there may be others. The agreement that's contemplated is between South Central Alabama Mental Health, who is already headquartered here, and the Alabama Department of Mental Health. The agreement is not with the county commission, but we're providing space for a facility that they want to construct. I know the commission looked at that in the early days and said, well, what better place than adjacent to the jail where we already incarcerate in some numbers the exact same people that will be expected to be housed in this facility. Not, it's a 16-bed facility, which we'll announce later today, but we may or may not have 16 people that could qualify, but we may easily have 16 people in our jail that this sheriff dealt with already and his deputies, and that the probate judge has had to deal with in her court, or circuit court has done. So, but I mean, your concerns are valid. I'm not arguing those, but I know that we have had some conversation with the Department of Mental Health raising these issues. And I think we're early enough in it, we are early enough in it, that we can have a memorandum of understanding to address these specific concerns raised. And that's what I would like to do, is have further specific conversation with them today and in the coming days, because we've not given them deed, title, lease, or anything to this property. So.
There are so many intricacies of this process of dealing with the mentally ill people who've been charged with a crime.
Yes.
It's pretty complicated. But a couple of things I want to make sure you understand. It won't be me or Judge Biden deciding unless we put them there from here. If it's from somewhere else, it'll be up to that circuit judge and whether he's liberal or conservative or careful or not worth the flip to decide who gets in and who gets out of that facility. I won't even know who's out there. You won't know who's out there. None of us will. I won't know who's being released, under what terms, if he's got a bond, if the sheriff's coming to get him. And it's my understanding that our sheriff's department won't have anything to do with the security of the thing. It'll be state employees. And I hate to say it, but if we look at the prison system, we know it's going to be underfunded and probably understaffed because we've got one guard for every 100 prisoners at Holman and everywhere else. I can't expect them to pour the money into a place like this for that. So I'm really concerned about that aspect. There's a number of things as I read through this statute that cause me a lot of concern about it. And I would just entertain or love to entertain here or whenever questions, and let's walk through it and and make sure you understand the questions they ask. You know, there's simple things like may and shall. If something says may in a statute, it just, might as well say if you want to, because that is no directive to do anything. And it talks about how the sheriff may come and get him and things like that. Well, if you can't make somebody do something, they're probably not looking for extra work. Or if he happens to be from Madison County because they were full, he don't want to send a deputy 400 miles or however far it is on a round trip ticket when he sees, hey, I can't even go pick him up. Grandma's already made bond. He's out. So I just got some real concerns. Anything you want to add?
Just that the folks that'll be coming, I mean, it can be anybody charged with a crime, from a misdemeanor to capital murder, but you tend to see these mental competency issues arise in the more serious crimes. If it's a misdemeanor or some low-level thing, those tend to, communities know who that person is, they know maybe they have some limitations or disabilities, and those things kind of get worked out if it's a real low-level crime. But most of the time, this back and forth Taylor Harden and competency hearings are dealing with people who've committed very serious crimes, and they're using that as a defense in their case to try to minimize what happens to them. So I think, I couldn't say exactly who would come to our facility, but I think you can expect it will be people who are charged with violent, serious offenses. We need to expect that, whether it turns out to be that way in every single case or not.
And I think somebody in my conversations with you had indicated, they have indicated to you that it's not gonna be murderers and that kind of people. Unless it says that and there's a complete restriction to that somewhere that's ironclad, I wouldn't count on that at all. And like Judge Bowden just said, I've been up there 18 years and I've never seen somebody file for a competency exam in a possession of marijuana case or breaking into somebody's car. It's always on a rape or a murder. That's where, when it really gets serious, is when lawyers start filing all this stuff, warranted or not. And more times than not, somebody who commits those kind of crimes is not as stable as you would like somebody to be, so it lends itself to more of these kind of questions. So, I don't know where the assurances come from or where they're written down, but I would be super leery on any just verbal may kind of wording assurances from anything with the state of Alabama. We passed the Prison Reform Act a few years ago and thought we didn't need to have people in prison. We put them all on probation. And then they were gonna hire all these probation officers to supervise it. We've got 3 probation officers, fixed to be 2, supervising about 750 people. So where's the money? You know, these unfunded mandates you hear about, they do all this great work they're supposed to do for the state of Alabama and then don't fund it. So I would just caution you. I'm not against anything necessarily. I probably am against this kind of facility, be it in my community just as a citizen. We need these facilities, no doubt about it. There's a lot of problems with mental health in the prison system.
Where do you put them? Where would be a better place, I guess?
I don't know why they don't go right there to Taylor Hardin and just add on to it. You've already got all the facilities there in place. The people are used to that kind of facility being there. You've got doctors on site. Where are these psychiatrists coming from that are gonna treat these people? Even out here at our mental health, don't they do it by television? They don't have a doctor out there. Who's gonna be over these people and deciding who's competent? Well, the judge decides it, but I can tell you from experience, I'm probably gonna listen to a psychiatrist, just like I don't know your business, I don't know his either. I mean, some of us can look at certain people and know they're incompetent, but you know, when you get right down in the weeds of does he know right from wrong, that's a decision a judge makes, but he makes it primarily on what some psychiatrist told him. So.
You may have questions or comments for the judge while he's here.
I deal with mental health and inmates and have represented a lot of defendants that have been accused of a crime, and I completely agree that even if we're not a party, that as the community, we need to inquire about the policies and procedures for safety measures, just to be on the safe side. And
you know, I would suggest even, and I hate to put something else on our sheriff, but if it's not in there ironclad that place where he came from has to come get him when a judge releases him, I think we ought to have at least something that says our sheriff or our circuit judge is gonna be notified anytime somebody's gonna be released, and I'm sure Blake would take him back to Jefferson County rather than let him walk around here. We'd do what we had to do, but it shouldn't be that way. It ought to be that whoever brings him down here has to come get him.
I think that'd be a good point. You brought a lot of good things, you know, points of interest that we have already talked about some of them, but, I think with some proper understanding and written agreements, like you suggested, I think we can do it.
Well, you know,
It's certainly something that we've done, and we've looked at the staffing chart and what have you from what they say they're gonna provide, but we have no guarantees of what they're gonna do, just like, but I feel confident that, the governor's pushing it hard, so I feel confident they'll try to make it work as best it can.
And hopefully that would be a rare occasion if you're reading from the 2254 patients without legal encumbrances may be discharged directly from the facility upon concurrence of the superintendent of the facility and the head of the institution or, body of court. Many things would have to come into play for that to happen, but it is a rare possibility that that could happen.
So we just have an agreement, that agreement will never happen. I mean, if it requires the superintendent of this facility, we can have that agreement in place.
And let me again, I have not
And-
seen the mental health policy, they may have a policy and procedure that covers this
Addresses it.
ironclad, I'm not saying they don't.
Right,
I'm just saying, I want you guys to know to be leery
right.
of this situation and make sure that you know what you need to know. So, anyway, that's what I'm here for.
Anybody else?
That's it. You know, I talked to you a few minutes this morning, and I totally agree with you. We asked as many questions that day as we were educated enough to ask. I do think you bring up some more valid points that we need to, we need to ask those questions. I too live in this community, and I sure don't want to do anything that I thought would become a harm or could be a problem for this community. We had pretty much the assurance in there that day from the men that we talked to that was not the case. Of course, you never know what can happen in that situation. I've been around long enough to know that too.
I would certainly want to see something in writing, and then I'd be
Well,
watchful of it happening even then, but, sorry, as far as saying, well, we don't do it that way, well, that person that said that may not work there next week.
that's right. I think it'd be appropriate if Ms. Cotton, and if we get some kind of agreement, and maybe Ms. Cotton could talk with you about it and see if you raise some more questions or whatever. And
We'll have appropriate conversation and discussion.
Unfortunately, it's like
Certainly.
a lot of things, when you live this life, you know what's going on, and regardless of what it says, you know what really happens in the world.
Yes.
Just like y'all know in your business what really happens in the world, regardless of what's supposed to happen. I'm telling you to be careful.
Yes, sir.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Appreciate you being here. Anybody else? All right, a motion to adjourn would be in order. Thank you, Kenneth. Stand adjourned.